the last type of rocks that we will be discussing in this module is metamorphic rocks. So, like our sedimentary rocks, metamorphic rocks must form from pre-existing rocks. However, the difference is, unlike being formed from sediments, your sedimentary rock, metamorphic rocks doesn't need that. You just take the rock and subject it to a lot of heat and pressure. But there's a threshold. Enough heat and pressure to initiate change in the rock itself, but not necessarily melting the rock back into magma. So this process of change in the pre-existing rock is called metamorphism. So not metamorphosis like that in the butterfly, metamorphism. Okay, so again, the requirements of metamorphic rocks to form is heat and pressure. Although there are some geologists which contest that instead of using pressure, which are more apt to use to liquids, it should be heat and stress, because stress is a subjecting lots of energy on solids, so they would prefer heat and stress. But for the rest of our discussion, since the slides are using pressure, then we'll just keep using that. There are different ways on how metamorphic rocks are formed. It's either underwater, so being exposed to a lot of heat, underwater heat and pressure, like in hydrothermal vents, it could initiate the formation of metamorphic rocks, or being, the more common one is being deep underground. Okay, so this diagram, this pair of diagrams will show you the threshold of how metamorphic rocks occur deep underground. So us human beings, we live here on our continental crust, but as you go down deeper into the crust itself, the temperature increases. So as every 1 kilometer, the temperature increases by 30 degrees Celsius. Okay, so in order for metamorphism to actually happen, you need a temperature of around 200 degrees to 600 degrees Celsius. More than that, the rock itself would melt, and then less than that, the metamorphism may not occur. Okay, so in terms of pressure, there are different levels of pressure in which metamorphic rocks could form. So it could be 200 degrees, 200 pascals, megapascals, up to 1,200 megapascals. So it's very dependent as well on the temperature if the rock itself would melt under that pressure. So this also shows you the depth of where you can find the certain conditions. So for example, at the depth of 25 kilometers into the crust, there could be 200 Celsius or 400 Celsius, and this is the specific pressure that you can find. Okay, so as I have mentioned, when it comes to metamorphism, you require a temperature of 200 to 600, and then you have different regions of metamorphism depending on the amount of pressure and heat. So when it comes to low grade metamorphism, you only need 200 megapascals of pressure and then 200 degrees Celsius. But for region of high grade metamorphism, it must be around 600 degrees Celsius and then 600 degrees of megapascals. Okay, so this is showing you the difference between the temperature and pressures. So for example, here you're starting, let's get my marker. The starting material here is shale, which I have already mentioned in our formation of our discussion in sedimentary rocks. So this simple sedimentary rocks could further change due to metamorphism. If it is subjected in low-grade metamorphism, it will become slate. If it is subjected into medium grade, it can become pyrite or schist. And if it is subjected into high-grade metamorphism, then it will become nice. There. So that's the effect of metamorphism of heat and pressure on our rocks. So it's still the same minerals, it's still the same materials, but due to the heat and pressure, it becomes these new types of metamorphic rocks. Okay, so there are also ways on how to classify metamorphic rocks based on the pressure they are subjected to. So foliated rocks is a type of metamorphic rocks which is subjected to differential pressure. So differences in the pressure creates different patterns in the metamorphic rocks. So some examples include slate, schist, phyllite, and gneiss. So as you can see in the gneiss, it has this sort of bands because of the minerals present and also the different levels of pressure. Okay, the non-foliated rocks, in the other hand, are those that form where temperatures are high but the pressure is relatively low. So they could lead to the formation of rocks with this uniform appearance. So a good example is marble. So marble is usually used in art and structures because of its uniform appearance. And as you may know, you have, whenever you need marble, you have to harvest the whole rock itself, which makes it very expensive. Another type of non-foliated rock is also your quartzite. Okay, so this image is showing you a comparison of granite, which is a type of igneous rock, and a gneiss. Okay, so as you can see, they are sort of the same in color because they actually contain the same minerals. But because of being subjected to differential stress and temperature, increase in temperature, then the granite could actually become your gneiss. Okay, another type of sedimentary rock that could undergo metamorphism is limestone. So limestone after metamorphism actually becomes your marble. So again, do not look down on your sedimentary rocks because once they are subjected into the proper environmental conditions, they become these amazing metamorphic rocks. Okay, so this is another example of metamorphic rock formation found in northern Highlands of Scotland. So Scotland is quite famous in having an abundance of metamorphic rocks because that area used to have a lot of sedimentary rocks which undergone a lot heat and pressure, thus exposing new metamorphic rocks now on its surface. So it's the layer of the sedimentary rocks are actually vertical, but actually in their formation they were horizontal. Then due to the movement of plates and being pushed around, it eventually became vertical. Okay, so that's one example of a metamorphic rock. Okay, so that should complete our discussion on our three rock types: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. But I would like to highlight that again, rocks are never permanent. Nothing in this world is permanent, even rocks. So the rock cycle reflects the change that rocks could undergo to. When it comes to the rock cycle, there is no beginning or end. It's just a continuous process in our planet. So for example, let's try starting with igneous rocks since that's the first part of our discussion. So igneous rocks, a formation of the igneous rocks come from magma. So they eventually cool down and become igneous rocks. But if they are subjected to heat and pressure, they can become metamorphic rocks. If the igneous rocks are subjected to weathering and erosion instead, they will be broken down into sediments and then form your sedimentary rocks. But if the sedimentary rocks undergo heat and pressure, then it will become your metamorphic. The metamorphic rock could melt down into magma or also weather and erode into sediments and become sedimentary rocks. So there's not really depends on the environment itself on what type of rock will be formed next. Okay, so this is just another version of the rock cycle image or diagram that I have shown you. Okay, so there, we have discussed the characteristics of the three types of rocks: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. If you have any clarifications about the types of rocks that we have discussed, feel free to message me either course messages or our Microsoft Teams. That's all. Stay safe. Bye.